Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial video for GoTechnology Hub 2, and this one is about equipment types. So broadly speaking, equipment types are ways of categorizing items of equipment, but they also serve another useful purpose within GoTechnology Hub 2, which I will describe right now. So let's imagine that we have a factory. And this factory, it's going to be a new factory that we're going to be building, and this factory builds rockets. And in this rocket building factory that we've got, we are going to have to install a bunch of fire alarms, specifically 50 of them. So for each of these fire alarms that we're going to have to install, we're going to have to do some tests. So we're going to have some ITRs against them. We are going to have an F98A, an F99A, and F99B. But we don't want to have to go and add all 3 of these to all 50 of these, because that'd be very time consuming. Going and doing each individual one, going into every single tag and adding this, blah, 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 blah. Even if we did it not on screen and we did it by the imports, it would still be a fairly time consuming thing. We'd have to set up the import template. We'd have to get all of those named, tagged items, and then for them, we'd have to have 3 line entries in there to say it's got an F98A against it, a 99A and 99B against it. That's time consuming. We don't want to do that. Isn't there a better way of doing it? Well, the answer is yes. We have equipment types. Okay, we know that every single one of these fire alarms is a fire alarm. So can't we just associate the equipment type to the ITRs we want? So for every single fire alarm, can we have these 3 ITRs against it? The answer is yes, we can do that, and that makes things much easier. So doing that in GoTechnology Hub 2 is fairly straightforward. So if we go in here, we've got ourselves the tutorial project that's in there, and what we can do is we can go in and we can check our equipment type register. We can say let's add one called fire alarms. Fire alarms, and the description is fire safety equipment detects fires. So we've set up that equipment type now. What we want to do is be able to map that equipment type to the set of ITRs, so that whenever we create a new piece of equipment called fire alarm, that will give it the right ITRs. So again, very straightforward. We just go into the equipment type to ITR section in here, and we can add some new records. So what we want to do is we want to say that for our fire alarms here, we want to have the F98A, which you can see, demo example, and then we can just go ahead and we can just save that. There's some other fields in there as well. Equipment status I'll talk about a little bit later on. Test reference I will talk about a little bit later on as well. So I've just added this first one, but if you remember, we actually wanted to have 3 in there. So what I'll do, just to show you how you can do it via the imports, is if we just go back here and we'll just export that file out, and we can open that up. It's just coming up on my other screen here. And I'll pull it over, and we get that lovely warning we always get. So we'll go enable editing. And what we can do there is we want to use the same equipment type, because we're saying that for fire alarms we want these 3 different ITRs against it. So we'll go with F99A and we'll go with F99B, and we'll just save that, and it'll tell us it's read only. So we'll just save that to the desktop there. I'll pull that back over here so that we can see the screen. If we just go to imports, and if we go in and we just choose the equipment type to ITRs, we'll go full. If you're not sure about these imports, if you watch one of the earlier videos I did, you should get an explanation. You can also find out information about how to do the imports in the user guide section in there as well. But we'll just go ahead and we'll import that. and we've got that added to the queue, and it's gone in. Oh, look, we've got some invalid and unchanged ones. Possibly I've typed something in wrong there. So that's a good excuse for us to go in and look at the import result file. So we can do a little bit of troubleshooting. So we can just click the link there, and once that opens up over here, we can see what exactly I've done wrong. Let's have a look, see, so invalid one. I haven't added the right ITR record in there. So whenever you get a message like that, F99B is not a valid ITR, that means that it's not actually in the reference tables. So if we go back to the ITRs, so you can see that I wasn't as well prepared as I thought. We'll go in and we'll just see if I've what we've got in here. Yep, so I haven't got it in there, so that's my mistake. So if we go in and we can just add that ITR in, so we go F, discipline's going to be F because it's fire and gas. Description, we'll just go demo ITR, and that's because that's a B sheet. I'm going to want that one to be PC, and we'll do Rev 6 and just save that. So there we go, we've got that in there again. So let's try and rerun it. Now, what I should have done really is if I'd done that as a simulate, I would have actually got that information up there without having added anything. But hey, you know, do as I say, not as I do. So we'll just import that in again. Let's add it to the queue. So we can see we've got 1 added and 2 unchanged. So that's all in there now. That's fantastic. And that means that when we go ahead and we add a new tag which has got that equipment type, we will then we'll get those ITRs in there automatically. So let's go ahead and just do that now. We'll add a new tag in there, and we'll call it FA00101. The discipline is going to be F because it's fire and gas. Description is going to be fire alarm in room 1. And then this is where that equipment type comes in. So we know that it's a fire alarm type, so we just go fire, fire alarms, and we will need to put in a subsystem. Subsystem's a required one. We'll just choose the first one, I think, unless we actually have something which has got fire. Let's see if we do, be a bit more realistic. Fire and gas, we'll go with that one. And then when we go save and view, now I haven't done anything to add any ITRs in there, but if I do save and view, we will have some ITRs magically appear. If we scroll down here, you can see we've got those in there. So that's why the equipment type to ITR setup is good. Now, what we'll do next is we'll look at one of the configuration options that you've got in here, which is a useful one. And that is around the actual way that you want allocation of the equipment types to ITRs to work. So if we go into the tutorial one here and we'll just go edit, and what we'll do is I'll just make it a little bit easier. But what we've got here is we've got what is the tag ITR auto allocation. So if you go back to watch the video that I did on functionality selector, which is video 101, in that process we ask about, well, how do you want your equipment type to ITR allocation to work? And the options we've got are on tag added an equipment type, or status changes, or advisory only. So at the moment it's set up to on tag added an equipment type status changes. So what does that mean? Well, effectively what that means is that if we go back, we realize we've made a mistake here. We don't actually, it's not a fire alarm at all, even though it's called fire alarm in room 1. It's something completely different. Then what we can do is we go in, we edit that, we change the equipment type to be something completely different, like this alarm analyzing high, go save and view. What we will find out is that we now have a little pop up there saying this doesn't match the equipment type to tag ITR matrix. So that's what that does there. So that has run that check again, because we've said, hey, whenever the status changes, go back and check. We can now see that that one does that. Now, if on the other hand we had as one of the other ones just on tag added, we wouldn't have that in there. Same for the advisory only. So on tag added, it means it will get set once and that's it. on equipment type changes, it will be checked again. And advisory only means it will never actually do any of the adding at all. It will just always have that. So when if we change it to advisory only, I'll show you how that works. If we just change that now, save and view, we'll go and add in another one. Add it the same. So we'll go 102, and we'll go F like that. We'll go fire alarm in room 2. And again, we've got the same equipment type, because the only thing we've changed now is that we've changed the way the allocation works. So we haven't changed anything else. So we'll go back down here, and this time we will just choose the first one because I'll keep it short. Save. And then when we go down here, you can see it hasn't allocated them, and because we're set to advisory only, it just told us they're missing. So what happens then? Like, this is a nice little thing, but you know, we want a little bit more help than that. Well, you click on this here, and that takes you to the equipment type to ITR panel, screen in there, and it allows you to just quickly add them. So if there is any changes that you need to make, you just go to, you either click on that button or you go to this equipment type to ITR review. You can just do select all, and you can just do add. And that's quite useful if there's a lot of them to do. So if you had suddenly changed a lot of things in there, you switched over a whole range of equipment type to ITR statuses, you could easily just go in there and then just change everything. So the only other thing really left to talk about in here is about equipment status. So one of the things that we had in the equipment type to ITR matrix was, if we can see there, there's an equipment status field. So what we could do for that is that basically gives us another way of subdividing how we are categorizing things. So for the fire alarms, if we go to, let's just have a look here. Let's say that for fire alarms which are offline, we only need that F98A. So what we could do there is, if we go in and we'll create a equipment status, got one in here. We'll just say that the name is, let's say spares. So spare, which is not in use. So maybe we only have to do the 98A. We can just go ahead, save that. And what we will do is we will say for that one, it's just for the spare one. So to explain that a little bit more, oh, and I've got to put in the test reference there, just say spare. If we explain that a little bit more, let me just go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So this is the situation we were in before. We said for everything which is equipment type fire alarm, we want these three ITRs to be allocated. However, aside from having these 50 fire alarms which are in use, we actually have, as well as that, we have 10 spares which are just there to be spares and just sit there. Now for the spares, we only need the 98A, okay? So that is where what the equipment status comes in. So we're still saying they're fire alarms because they are, but we're just saying that because of their spares, they only need one perhaps, or maybe they need it's something else, whether in a more highly regulated area and they need 5 of them. It allows you to keep the equipment type to stay the same, but it gives you an option of dividing that further. So you might well not have to use this, but it's an option that's in there anyway. And just to go back to the screen, you can see here that the reason we've got that test reference in there is that we can't have the same equipment type and ITR matching up, so we had to put in a test reference as well. But if I show you how that then works, go in and we can change the, actually we'll leave it as is, why don't we? We'll go in here and then we'll go to our tagged item. And we'll go fire alarm. So we'll do this one right here. So remember that for this fire alarm here, set it as equipment type fire alarm. So that means that it matches what's in the matrix. That's great. It's a fire alarm. It has no status. It matches what's in there. We go back to equipment type 2 ITRs. You'll be able to see that. So when it's set to fire alarms and there's nothing in there, it should have 3. However, if we then go in and we change it, we're keeping it as a fire alarm because it is still, but we put spare fire alarm for room 2 because it is. And what we're actually doing, this description changes just to make it obvious, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to change the equipment status. So it's still the same equipment type, it's still a fire alarm, but now it's a spare one. We go save and view for that. We go down here, now we can see that it does not match anymore. And when we click in that button there, what it'll say is that this is the actual one. It should only be those ones that's in there. And we can just go ahead and do that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of understanding on the equipment types and equipment type 2 ITR. Thanks for watching.